26:57 through 61. Now this is in the garden when Jesus gets arrested. Those who had arrested Jesus led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders gathered together. Now, first off, they were never supposed to do this at night. They were supposed to meet during the day to have a trial. They were not ever supposed to do it at night according to Jewish law. They were supposed to do it in the open so people who could come and be witness to what was happening could come. Also, the fact that they did it at night, I'm sure some people wouldn't have got up. Or some people, they didn't go to get up to do this. This wasn't like, okay, it just sunset, everybody's going to bed, and it's late. No, this was late. Most people were probably sleeping at this point, and they just did it so they could neglect waking them up, so that they could get the trial to go their way. But Peter followed him from a distance as far as the high priest's courtyard, and stepping inside, he sat down with the attendants to see the end. So there is some people there. We see most. So some people there just observing. Probably ain't very large crowd. With it being Passover, if they would have did it during the day, it would have been a huge crowd. The fact that he's able to actually get in and follow and see things kind of indicates this ain't a very large crowd, which kind of indicates most people have gone to bed. So again, sometimes we want to know where Jesus is leading us. You know, at this point he was being led to the cross, but Peter was following behind, seeing what was happening. Even though Jesus told him what was going to happen, Peter was watching. He was keeping it. And sometimes we want to know where God's leading us before we get there. Sometimes he lets us know that. Sometimes he wants us to follow blindly. Now the chief priest and the entire Sanhedrin looked for false testimony against Jesus in order that they might execute him. Now the whole Sanhedrin, it's referring to the Sanhedrin that's there, attending. It's most likely that all 71, or how many ever, I think it's 71, it wasn't there. It was probably half that, maybe even less. But what it's saying is all those at the Sanhedrin that were there were looking for reason. See, we see with people like Nicodemus that there were people who were part of this group that were starting to believe Jesus, who would not have been looking to accuse him. And these people would not have been there because they would have took the direction a different way than the priest wanted it to be taken. So they just weren't there. Fact is, the reason they were meant to meet in day was so none of this would happen. So their Jewish law system that they hold so high, they're breaking to get what they want, which is oftentimes the way the world works. They put all these standards up, and then they are willing to break them because they don't like somebody who... And it ain't their standards they're breaking here. It's just law God gave them. They're breaking God's law because Jesus didn't follow their own traditions. And oftentimes when we put our traditions, our way of thinking ahead of God, oftentimes it turns us into a mindset where we shouldn't be. Where we end up, because of the way we think, we hold higher than what God said. So then we go into a similar mind frame. Maybe not as far as they are, but we're still, the heart and motives behind it is the same as what they did. But although many false witnesses came forward, they found nothing. Finally, two came forward. So what it was, according to Jewish law, two people had to agree. have the exact same story for a conviction to happen. Exactly same detail, everything. Otherwise, it wasn't true. So what was happening was these people were coming forth telling their side of the story, but none of them lined up. So they did not have two witnesses. They had two that witnessed the same thing, but not two who may have accused Jesus of the same thing during what they witnessed. So that's why. So two witnesses had to be, and as messed up and everything they were trying to. These guys, it mentions they were false witnesses, so these guys had stories already planned to say, yet they obviously couldn't remember enough of it, or somehow the way they did not match up to where an accusation could be brought. So again, according to Jewish law, because two did not agree, he was not to be convicted. Again, they'll break this. Who said this fellow said, I have power to destroy God's temple and to build it again in 3 days. Now, when Jesus said this, he never said God's temple. And they were thought that. But what he was saying is, he was talking about his temple. God built this temple. He was referring to himself, the fact that he was going to die and be rose up from the grave on the third day. So this fact that he brings this up shows that he did not understand him at all. Because what he's saying is, well, Jesus threatened to destroy the temple. Well, the heart of the temple was already being destroyed because people did not trust half the workers in it. Jesus just gave people a reason. He was the option instead of it. They didn't necessarily need it, and the temple was no longer needed because Jesus came. So, but he wasn't actually threatening the building. And he'd go there and teach. And oftentimes what we say as Christians, people may misunderstand. People may turn our words, try to use them against us. And that's exactly what they're doing with Jesus. And that's the way Satan works and the way he's always worked. And his tactics really have never changed. He's going to deceive people and try to use what they say against him and manipulate people. And that's exactly what they're doing with this trial. Trying to manipulate people, twist words. It's not a fair trial, and God designed their trials not to work that way.